Well, everyone, it's happened. Today's breaking news is fairly interesting because it looks like Bobby Kotick is actually going to be gone. And of course, the Activision Blizzard King merger with Microsoft has occurred, which now means if you take a look at this Xbox first-party studios diagram, you can see just how bloody insane it is. Between Activision, Blizzard, and, King, their own first-party studios and Bethesda, it's a hell of a lot. And even if you look at the horizontal size of this graphic, you can see that it pretty much did double with this merger going through. And in terms of staff count, we've got over 8,500 people coming in from Activision, 6,000 from Blizzard, 2,500 from King, and you can of course see that nice little Game Pass logo, which is going to be a key part of this strategy as we move forward. So, Bobby Kotick, he's been CEO of Activision and then Activision Blizzard since 1991, longer than I have been alive, 32 years. And per an 8K filing with the SEC, at the close of the transaction, he and the rest of the board have agreed to give up their positions in the company as part of the closure. But that's not quite the entire story. This is the email that Bobby sent to the rest of the company. He basically said a whole bunch of stuff about the company's history, but then he confirmed he will remain as CEO until the end of 2023, and this is something that has been at Phil Spencer's request. Ending with, as part of Microsoft, we will be even better together. Signed, Bobby. So, that was the mail that went out, and of course it does make a fair amount of sense, right? Both companies want a smooth transition here. They do not need chaos happening, especially given how many active projects and releases Activision Blizzard King has. And right now, the closest thing to a smooth hand that they have is the hand of Bobby Kotick, a hand that soon is going to be utterly encrusted in gold, because his deal is seriously insane and he is about to get even more rich. Now, Phil Spencer is basically going to be doing site visits. He will be going around these various different offices to Activision Blizzard and King to essentially help this integration go a little bit faster. Some of this will be fairly natural. As an example, Mike Ybarra, I believe it was Xbox. It was like Xbox Online. I think that's what he headed up. He then moved over doing Battle.net for Blizzard. Then, of course, he's became the president of Blizzard. But he is a Microsoft guy, so I imagine things will be very easy there, at least on a sort of personal level. Like, Ybarra will know how stuff works at Microsoft. Then the other side of that is culture, and to be honest, I don't really get the impression that there'll be a massive amount of cultural resistance to this. A lot of people who work at Activision Blizzard King, they don't really look at corporate in the fondest light. I know plenty of people who work at that company just, through my time going around the industry, of course, doing a Warcraft channel, and as much as a lot of us are very hesitant about a lot of consolidation and acquisitions going on, I do at least know that a lot of the staff view this as an opportunity for change. And really, this is the crazy story of how Activision Blizzard brushing all that bad culture stuff, all the bad things that happen, how them brushing all of that under the rug has led to the enrichment of Bobby Kotick to the tune of nearly $500 million, which I suppose means that he could pretty much go and make Cyberpunk 2077 plus Phantom Liberty again and market the whole thing if he wanted out of his personal assets. Obviously a lot of that will be stock or whatever, but basically the deal is all that stuff went down. At that time, obviously Microsoft was very acquisition hungry. They essentially saw this as this is an entry point. They are embattled, but they do have good teams and good assets. Obviously, their stock price a little bit depressed because of all the stuff that happened. And as pointed out by Ethan here, all of that drama, all those bad things that happened, have they led to Bobby leaving the company? Yes. Has it been because he's taken accountability for these things happening under his leadership? No, it's not. It's because his exit agreement is worth $400 million, which Ethan points out is 20 times the amount that the EEOC settlement was. Of course, that was the settlement to the, or at least the people who, accepted the settlement, the aggrieved parties from the investigation, which is all pretty damn crazy. What we do need to talk about then is what happens next, what this could possibly mean. And what's happening very directly next is a little bit of an update because, hey, here's the art book for The Pale Beyond, the video game that we did. These are now in stock with rapid shipping. And because this microphone doesn't pick up noise from the other room, all the collector's editions, they are also in stock, packed, posted. And so all our pre-orders, your stuff is in the mail. And for the stock that remains, if you want to check out any of your stuff, it's one of the best ways you can support what we do here, yeah, you can check it out at store.bellular.games. So that's the way to support what we are doing in this fun land of demonetization happening more often, and our ad rates being half of last year sometimes. Yeah, fun. Okay, what happens next? Here is the deal. Likely somebody is going to take on that public leadership position at Activision Blizzard, right? As an example for ZeniMax, Pete Hines is often the most visible VP in the company to audiences, and he ended up in a position last year as the head of global publishing, which basically seems like the top of the top of that group. Activision Blizzard King doesn't really have anyone who currently fits a position like that, so you kind of wonder, like, Bobby will be gone, but who is the president? Who will be the new overall leader of that group? Because it's probably not going to be Phil Spencer. He's managing Xbox. For him to do like one subdivision, one subgroup of Xbox, that wouldn't really make sense. Then, of course, it's a question of, now with all of these millions, what will Bobby do to console himself, right? That is actually kind of an interesting discussion. The hilarious option, if we wanted to go to the maximum hell universe, is that, well, hey, Jim Ryan left PlayStation. So, you know, you could have Bobby moving from one of the largest games publishers to the biggest game console in the world. So if Bobby Kotick ends up running PlayStation, that would actually be the most hilarious thing just about ever. I don't actually think that will happen. I think they know that would be a fairly bad move. That being said, a lot of image rehab was being done on Bobby. As an example, we really put a lot of effort on this show into deconstructing all of the manipulative techniques that were behind the feature that was done on him, the profile, in Variety magazine. And that was very, very much trying to say, this is Bobby Kotick. A lot of that stuff was unfair. In corporate America, he's sort of respected as one of the best, most effective CEOs. He's the envy of, boardrooms everywhere. In Wall Street, they talk about him, they love him. And it really seemed like that was just kind of cleaning up his reputation and, I suppose, just trying to prepare his image for taking on a role somewhere else. That said, he is getting on in age. Maybe he will just decide, that's it, I want to work on my own stuff. I don't want the responsibility of running a humongous company. Could be that, or he could keep on going. It's kind of hard to know exactly. But his already very humongous personal wealth has, of course, had a nice little top up with today's news. And I suppose one thing that we do see is he does seem to be schmoozing about with some sort of like Hollywood types, producer types. Obviously, he was in Moneyball. That was kind of funny. James Corden was there for the recent town hall. I'll talk about that in tomorrow's video. Obviously, this one comes out first because breaking news. So who knows? Maybe there was some sort of like film executive at like one of those big companies that he could pick up. That being said, I think the thing that we care about the most is the video games. Monetization is really getting out of hand for Activision Blizzard games. Of course, for the King side, monetization has been out of hand for a very long time. And it's a fairly interesting thing. I've got a full deep dive video on that tomorrow. But basically the Fortnitification of COD and them kind of marching on their monetization plans for the other franchises, that's it really is going places. As for games then, obviously Call of Duty is going to be multi-platform for a decade, right? That's the the big deal that was signed. That being said, you got to look at the Blizzard things. So World of Warcraft, that's obviously on PC. Could there be a console version of World of Warcraft? Well, they have actually added more and more support for gamepads. Now, the Blizzard team have always framed that as being far more of an accessibility option. That being said, architecturally, WoW actually does run quite well on highly threaded computers. Now, at least as compared to the past, I think it was Battle for Azeroth patch 8.1 that they added those improvements in, and it's kind of sad that I can remember that off the top of my head. But anyway, for a bit of what I've heard, I don't think I would be surprised if WoW ended up on console. I don't think it will be anytime soon, but say in like 2 or 3 years' time. I have heard some rumblings about that. Not enough to hang my hat on it, but hey, it could happen. As for Overwatch, I think it, and more importantly, its business model just requires more players, and I don't think cutting off the biggest games console is going to be a good idea for Overwatch. Maybe this is something like if they feel by the time the next console cycle is there, maybe the Overwatch 2 name is a bit better, there's just more content, people are happy, it somehow has recovered, maybe they pull an exclusivity there. I mean, even then, that would be a pretty rough thing to do. Diablo 4, though, that's an interesting one. Obviously, it is already on PlayStation. Now, Diablo 4 expansions, I think those will have to come out on PlayStation as well. Diablo 5, that's an interesting thing. I think Diablo 5 is the sort of thing that could happen. I think if you look at the business models, it's very transparent that they basically want Diablo to follow the Call of Duty business model. So if there's a Diablo 5, I think that will be Xbox Game Pass and Microsoft platforms only. To be honest with you. And as for the Untitled Survival game, Microsoft, I think they would love more live service titles. I think an ongoing forever game in the survival genre would absolutely fit that, fit that market for them. And yes, that would totally be a Game Pass thing. I think they could happily sit there along with Sea of Thieves, right? That kind of situation. And you just have to remember, Microsoft have been extremely willing to sacrifice money straight up for exclusivity and growing their platform. We all know that Starfield would have sold crazy numbers in PlayStation if they put it out there, and that's just, hey, $70 a pop from the largest segment of the console market. They were okay to say no to that to grow Game Pass. Especially, I think, because the edge was taken off that by the premium early access. I suppose as a final thing then, if you're to apply some hopium here, Microsoft have treated some of their legacy IP, like Age of Empires, fairly well. I look at Microsoft Flight Sim, and I know there's loads of people who love flight sims. I'm always surprised, though, that Microsoft put that much into the flight sim games, because they don't really look like a multi-billion, dollar franchise, but it's kind of cool that they do that. It's cool they keep Age of Empires going. I do think that the chances of like a new StarCraft that's actually a StarCraft go up in this scenario. And then, right, you've got all that legacy IP. I mean, Spyro. We could do more Spyros, I think. There's been some rumors, I think, that Toys for Bob are on a Spyro. But anyway, one of the reasons why, like, a lot of those projects didn't really happen is because Toys for Bob, High Noon, all those studios, they had to go into the Call of Duty mine. So the opportunity cost of them not doing Call of Duty and not helping fix up Warzone, that opportunity cost was too high. We're in a situation now, though, where all of that IP is now owned by this entire group with all of those studios. I think that does kind of increase the chances. I mean, hey, you could have, right, craziest thing. Imagine Rare working on someone else's 90s mascot. Wouldn't that be crazy? Anyway, that is the news today. Bobby Kotick probably gone. He's going to be very rich. Will this be better for the games that we play and their business models? Maybe, perhaps it could be. But of course, it's also a little bit worrying that, there's more consolidation going on in the games market. That being said, they were, Blizzard, Activision Blizzard, it was only multi-billion franchises, and the decision-making that happened at the corporate level did lead to a lot of things that we do not like. This is an opportunity for change. Just, don't pre-order that change. We'll have to see in a few years. That's it for me. If you want to support our show, you can pick up, shipping very rapidly, our stuff from the Pale Beyond Collector's Edition and the art book. The vinyls are still in production at the vinyl making people. But yeah, there you go. Store.bellular.games. With that said, have a great day, and I'll see you next time.